Remax Metro, happy Sunday to you and welcome to another edition of Metro Minutes with Marcus. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend. I'm popping in here really quickly to drop a little bit of knowledge on you. You may or may not have heard that OpenAI has just dropped GPT-5. So unless you're living under a rock, or perhaps you just have better things to do with your life than to keep up with all this nonsense, I thought I would share a little bit of information about this latest model that was dropped this last week, and maybe share a couple things with you that will be a benefit to you and your business. All right. So let's jump right into this. I'm going to share my screen really quickly and we will pop off into this. All right. The first thing is that all over the place, you're seeing, like, even on the front cover of Financial Times, I got as an email yesterday. This is big news around the world, because this has been a highly anticipated drop for probably 2 years now, and just mixed reviews. And I want to give you some things that I think will be a benefit to you. But even with my own personal use over the past 3 or 4 days or so, not as exactly the hype as I thought it was, but a lot of cool, new, great features. And it's definitely taking an advance in the right direction. Okay. So we're going to make sure we highlight some things that will be a benefit for you and your business. All right. So let's jump into, got a little slideshow put together for you here, and we'll be quick and punchy as always. All right. So let me get myself all set up and share my screen with you. All right. Make sure I got some large done locked in. All right. So ChatGPT just dropped GPT-5, and why this matters to you. This is probably their biggest and most powerful model. Obviously, it's smarter, it's faster, it's more reliable. It will, if you're leaning into this technology, it's going to help you win listings. It's going to help you close faster, and it's going to free up time for what matters most. And that's spending time with your clients as well as with your family and in your own personal life. Okay. These are some statistics that come strictly from the use of AI in your business, that you can save about 40 to 60% of your day-to-day administrative tasks and things you're doing. You can save more time by implementing some of these strategies into your day-to-day business, and roughly 28 to 30% closure in deals. That is a very good benefit. All right. One of the things I did want to mention, if you are a free user, you are the ones who are going to benefit the most from this upgrade, because even on the free plan, you have access to this flagship model, where it wasn't the case before in the free. I do highly recommend that you snap off that $20 and go ahead and upgrade yourself, everyone, to the Plus plan. It is very worth it. If you've not jumped into the water yet or put your toe in the water yet when it comes to using ChatGPT or using AI, completely understand that. But whenever you come around, because this is not going anywhere, so come around, the sooner the better. But I would highly recommend dropping the $20 and getting yourself to the Plus plan. That's all you're going to ever need. And it opens you up to a whole new world. And I mean that with all my heart. All right. So let's keep it moving here. This is one of the biggest things that has changed with this update. Okay. Some of you may know that with the ChatGPT 4, there were multiple models you could actually change for different use cases. Okay. So it wasn't until maybe like mid last year that I was even really fully aware of this. I always kept it on just whatever the main GPT was, or the main screen was. I never really changed the model. But the difference between a change in the models is you could actually have one, like the ChatGPT 4 or 4.0 was just basically for everyday task, all right? Quick answers, everyday task. Okay. But if you want to do like more deep analysis and you want the AI to think longer, then what you would do is you would go to your little toggle on the top left corner, like I have on the screenshot here, and you would go down to O3, which would be the more advanced reasoning. So it's going to take more time to think about the answer, and it's going to put together a more thought out answer, basically. What they've done, as you can see, there was multiple models here, right? What they've done is they've taken away that bottleneck for people, all right? Because it was too confusing with the naming conventions and what's this model do and what's that model do. And now they put it all into one model, basically actually two models under the hood, but for the most part, just one model. And the prompt that you give the AI is what decides and determines what model you're using behind the scenes. So all the other, like the deep reasoning models and the advanced reasoning models are still behind the scenes, but the user does not have to choose what that model is. So that makes it much easier, because it's going to, if it's a simple, like a Google request, where are the best tacos? It's going to use that. It's going to use the GPT, just a regular 5 model. If you're doing a little bit something more complex, let's say some type of market analysis, then it knows based upon that prompt that's going to switch to a reasoning model. And you'll see on the screen, it'll say thinking, and it'll take a little bit longer to think. Okay. So that is one thing I actually liked once I learned how to use the models. I liked going in and actually switching them to the different models, but you no longer have to do that. It's just one interface, and it's called Unified Routing System. Okay, so it switches between quick responses and deep reasoning automatically, perfect from going from a client text or or responding to an email, helping you with that, and then jumping right into a full market analysis without you ever having to actually switch anything behind the scenes. All right, so it's like having a showing assistant who knows when to sprint and when to slow down for details. All right, so that is the benefit number one for you, is that you no longer have to switch models. And if you never did before, I guess you didn't know anyway, but you'll benefit, because when you're doing deep market analysis, it will pick the right model for you. You'll get a much better input when you need it to do a little more thinking. Okay. So the unified routing system, number one on there. All right. The next one is called a massive context window that is multimodal. What does all of that mean? All right. Before, when you were using ChatGPT and you started giving it a bunch of context, over time, because of the context window, it would start to lose reference. Okay. So now they've enlarged the context window, and not only have they enlarged it, it doesn't matter what you're adding as far as content. You can add all of your listing photos. You can add a bunch of PDFs. You can have multiple things you're putting into your prompt area or the context window at one time, and it's able to process through all of that. You can actually even load multiple books in there, and it doesn't like lose its reference point. And it knows if you just want like a summary of chapter 3 of a 20 chapter book, it has enough space in the context window now to just extrapolate that one piece of information without getting caught up in all of the other things that keep you on track. So if GPT-4 was like staging one room at a time, GPT-5 lets you stage the whole house in one shot. Okay. So you can put as much information into the context window when you're doing your prompt as you need to, and it will not get lost in the process. Okay. So that is a larger context window. And multimodal just means putting in pictures. You can even do live video now and upload videos and PDFs. So there's a multimodal operations going on in the context window now. So moving on, this one is definitely under the hood, and you're probably not going to be, I've been playing with this a lot as far as messing with coding and task automations. Probably not something you're going to be doing on a regular basis, but what it means to you is pretty much any tool that you're going to be using as an agent is going to be smarter and have the ability to be more customized. All right. So that's all that really means. I'm not going to get too much in the weeds with coding and task automation and all that, but it's very interesting. The tools that you're going to be using that have ChatGPT in the background are going to be much smarter and much more powerful because of the coding enhancement with this new model. Okay. This is a big one right here. All right. What some people don't realize is that up until this improvement, but if I go right now and type into ChatGPT and I say, hey, when was your last learning cutoff? Meaning, when did you get the last look at the entire internet in order to learn? Because that's what's happened here. This model's been fed everything on the internet, but that learning stopped back in mid 2024. So what does that mean? That means unless you enable the web search function, it's literally making things up in order to make you happy. All right. And it's called hallucinating. All right. So if it doesn't know something, then what it'll do is it'll try to fill in the space and fill in the gaps in order to give you an answer, because that's what it wants to do. It wants to give you an answer. Okay. With this new upgrade, the hallucinations and the accuracy have been improved tremendously. I've noticed it significantly with some stuff I've been doing the past couple of days, because I've always been cross-referencing and cross-checking the data to make sure it's correct. And it's really been spot on, with the exception of a couple little things. It's much, much better. So 95% higher accuracy when it comes to property descriptions and neighborhood details. The error reduction it's increased by 87%. And as far as like doing any type of contract review or document review, it's literally almost 100% now. It's almost spot on. Okay. So verified data that GPT now clearly distinguishes between verified local market stats, national trends, preventing misleading client information. Big deal. All right. A lot of times people are putting things in and not really cross-checking or cross-referencing the information that was given. So it's been a tremendous upgrade in this platform with reducing hallucinations, as well as much, much better accuracy, less fluff and mistakes, and more confidence when you're giving numbers to your clients. All right. So reduce hallucinations and better accuracy. All right. Customization and personalities. This is an interesting one as well. This one allows you, and if you build a custom GPT before, you were able to do this, but now there's even more power in the ability to have a specific tone or a personality that you're responding to a specific buyer or seller with. And you can have multiple different voices that, let's say you're speaking with a luxury client, it's going to be different than when you're speaking with a first-time home buyer. So there's some things that have been enhanced in the background, and I'm going to do some additional training. All of these additional things have been added. I'm just going through what these upgrades are that benefit to you, but I have some ideas for some very dialed-in training for you. But you're able to have multiple different types of personalities. You can have a professional personality, a funny personality, a storytelling personality, and GPT-5 has the ability to remember the context of the different personalities that you would like to speak with. Okay, so that's another thing, creating multiple voice profiles and different property types for different client segments. That's a big one for you to use in your business. All right. And there's also the ability to change the way that ChatGPT speaks to you. I'm going to show you that in a demo here in a minute. But ChatGPT's always had this kind of, it's like a puppy dog. It just wants to make you happy. It's like, oh, it's a Ferber. It's so nice to you all the time. And it's never like derogatory or negative. You have the ability now to change the person. There's 4 different personality types in your settings, and you can have the tone of how it speaks to you moving forward. So I'm going to show you that's a change that just happened with ChatGPT 5 as well. All right. So let's talk about advanced memory. This is a big one. Even though there's always memory associated with ChatGPT, as of probably about a year ago, memory got better. Now it's much better than it's ever been. It learns your style over time, and it remembers your preferred terms and formatting without you having to retrain it, or without you having to restate it every time you do a prompt. Okay. So this is a big one. So here's an example. So the first time you do this, it says this property features a 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and approximately 1,850 square feet of living space. The home has a backyard and garage. But once it learns your style, it will know to write, this exclusive offering showcases 3 gorgeous bedrooms and 2 designer bathrooms within 1,850 square feet of thoughtfully designed living space. The private oasis backyard and oversized 2-car garage, complete with exceptional opportunity, is an exceptional opportunity. So it just, once you've written a description, or once you've written anything, it starts to learn the words that you use, the phrases that you use, in the contextual nature that you're actually using those phrases and words. Okay. So it has an advanced memory that adapts to your preferences, automatically becoming more efficient with each and every interaction. So every time you're using this now, it's getting smarter and smarter over time. So there's less redundance of having to go back and explain exactly how you want your voice to sound. Okay. Moving on. Better multi-step reasoning. So what this means is it has a better control of breaking down complex challenges. So from the initial data collection to the analysis of the framework, to verifying its process, to any types of strategic recommendations. It delivers actionable insights with confidence, ratings, and supporting advice. This is like your AI going from a rookie assistant to a seasoned transaction coordinator. So you're able to do more complex scenarios like investment property analysis or development opportunities, portfolio management. So it has a much, much better deep multi-step reasoning functionality. And until you're actually using this, a lot of this is just words, guys. I understand that. But the more you start to use this, I did some deep reasoning on some projects on Friday and yesterday afternoon. And there's a tremendous difference as far as I'm seeing it with some of the processes that I'm doing. So this has definitely been an enhancement with the Chat GPT-5 update. Okay. Moving forward and moving on. So how do you start using this stuff today? And why does it even matter? I would just do more of what you're already doing. So when it comes to doing like property descriptions, when it comes to client communications, when it comes to doing market statistics and snapshots, or writing any type of marketing content that you're probably already using ChatGPT for, just keep doing those things. You're going to see a marked difference, especially if you're a person who's never changed the model to a deep reasoning model from the flagship model. If you've never changed it down to the O3 model before, you don't have to do that anymore. And you'll notice that your outputs, especially when it comes to any type of analysis, is so much more broad and so much more deep than it was before. So that's all I would do is I would just keep using it the way you're using it. I've got some things coming up I've been working on behind the scenes that I will be rolling out to you over the next several weeks that will get you really dialed into using this. This is a game changer, guys. You should be letting your family know, especially people that have never even logged into AI. They're going to have to do this eventually. And now's the time because they have the most powerful model that's to date was just released a couple days ago, and everyone has access to it, even if they're on the free plan, which is huge. Okay. Keeping it moving. I think. All right. Competitive advantage. And this is what I'm talking about. You're going to have some agents who are going to sit on the sidelines and never really going to jump in the pool. I really recommend with all the resources we have with your staff, with myself, we can help you and handhold you through this process to help you have a competitive advantage by utilizing ChatGPT-5 and many other LLMs and AI models, but especially this new model. Okay. So elevate your workflow. Your mastery starts here. Let's set you up for success with GPT. There are going to be some additional training classes coming up, as well as I'm going to keep loading up the Metro resource area as well. So that way you can, I'm going to put some prompting guides and probably like a synopsis of what I just did here in this presentation into a guide for you. So you have an idea of what's changing, what has changed, and how you can benefit from using those changes. Okay. So let's jump out here real quickly. And as I wrap it up, I'm just going to jump into ChatGPT. So when you log into ChatGPT, if you haven't in a couple of days, when you get to the home screen, you're going to see the announcement introducing GPT-5, right? Couple things I want to show you is, as I mentioned in this little presentation, if you go right here to this little drop down, you'll notice that there's literally only two thinking models. All right. There's a flagship model and a thinking model. You don't really even have to change it to the thinking model. I've done that a few times when I know that I wanted to do some more deep thinking. So it will automatically kick into a different thinking. But if you know you're going to do that, then it doesn't hurt to go ahead and just go ahead and drop it down to this, so that you don't have to switch between the multiple different models anymore. Is the first thing I wanted to show you. So let's go down here to this little plus. If you didn't know about the different models that were available, which are no longer available except for two, then you may not have known about the additional tools that are inside of your prompting bar here. So obviously the first one would be if I'm adding context to a prompt. A couple of Metro minutes ago, I spent a lot of time talking about the importance of writing a prompt would be giving a role to the AI. You are a savvy investor. Your task is to, number two would be to give it a task. And then the next thing that's probably the most important thing is to give it some type of context. So whether it be additional details about what you want it to do, or you're going to give it PDFs, examples of past buyer personas or financial reports or menu items or whatever you're doing, depending on what the context is. So that's where you would go in here and just add attachments by clicking on this and grabbing your attachments, right? When we get back in here, or adding any type of files or attachments, right? Or you can connect it to your Google Drive and go into Google Drive and grab documents to pull over. And like I mentioned earlier in the presentation, the context window is huge now. So you can add tons and tons of documents. The more context you give the AI, the better and more powerful the output's going to be every single time. So give it examples, especially if it's writing examples of some things you've written. Give it 2 or 3 blog posts that you've actually written yourself, or emails that you've written yourself, and tell it to please take note of my writing style and adjust your writing style accordingly. So it's always going to have your voice. All right. So the more context you give the model and a prompt, the better. Okay. So another thing, which you've probably all been using, is what's called the create an image mode. So this is if you want ChatGPT to do some type of an image for you. It's got an incredible image generator as of maybe about 3 or 4 months ago now. So you simply click on create an image, and then you would go write your prompt, create me an image of whatever it may be. The more detailed that prompt is, the better that output's going to be. But that is creating an image for you. If I go back in here, deep research. Now, deep research is very similar to reasoning, but it's even more of a deep research. There's been a couple of times where I've done deep research and the AI is taking like 20 to 30 minutes to pull together this report for me, because I gave it specifically what I wanted, and it went out and looked at 50, 60 different sources to compile it all into, which would take it 30 minutes, but it would take me 2-3 weeks, maybe a month, to pile all that data together by reading 6 different documents and pulling out all the important pieces. So anytime you're doing some type of a deep research, whether it be market reports or some type of research for, if you're doing something for your kid's school or something from a research standpoint. Sorry, I've got a little feather flying around. So deep research, so you simply click deep research, and you'll notice when you put your prompt in, it takes a much, much longer time for that prompt to process, because it's going out and finding multiple different sources. All right. The last one I'm going to go over, and I'm not going to spend any more time on these little tools, would be agent mode. This is a complete game changer. I've used this several times now, and to give you the basicness of what agent mode is. Right now, when you're using ChatGPT, what you're doing is you're simply going in and you're putting a prompt in, and when you're basically giving it some instructions and giving it words, right? What's happening under the hood is those words are being converted to what's called tokens, and tokens are just numbers and sequences. And then what the AI is doing, it's guessing based upon percentages of what the next word is. So it's really just playing kind of a guessing game. It's not really putting a whole lot of thought into anything. It's taking a number sequence, and it's like me saying knock, and you say, who's there? So it's basically based upon the context of what you're asking and what the next word is, and based upon its data, it's just it's guessing what the next word is. So that's really what's going on. The magic behind the curtain, that's simply what it is. What an agent does, that's much different than that, just giving you an output based upon guessing on random numbers, not random numbers, but structured numbers. You give it a task. Let's say I want you are an incredible trip planner or trip advisor. Please book a vacation for me in San Francisco on the week of October 13th through 17th. Enter. So what happens at that point, once you give it that set of instructions, if you're looking at your screen, it opens up its own computer browser, and then it reiterates what you asked it to do, and then autonomously by itself, it will figure out how to go and get you the information or book your vacation or whatever you're asking it to do. It will do by itself in a context window. So it can actually go out and browse multiple different airlines. It can look at multiple different hotel stays and find the cheapest option that's closest to where you want to be, and book all of those things, or send you a summary back. So what it's doing all this by itself. It may take 20 minutes to do. It may take 3 hours to do. It will take as much time as it needs to finalize what request you're asking it. that's probably a lot of words and you probably don't understand what I'm saying. I'm going to do a video specifically on how to use the agent inside GPT because it's truly a game changer. You can take tasks off your plate that you're doing every day by assigning it to an agent and let it do the work for you. All right. So I'm going to do a video that's specifically about that thing. So stay tuned. That's going to be coming soon. All right. So the last things I'm going to go over and we'll get out of here on a Sunday is if you go down to the very bottom of your screen or right here where it has your, boom. All right. Where it has your name and you go to customize GPT. All right. So if you customize GPT over here, it says what personality should your GPT have? So I picked nerd because I'm a nerd myself. Exploratory and enthusiastic. That's what a nerd is, okay? Then there's also the listener who's thoughtful and supportive. Then you have the robot who's efficient and very blunt. You have the cynic who's critical and sarcastic. That one's actually pretty funny. I toggle back between the nerd and the cynic. And then the default is just the one ChatGPT has always been, just so cheerful and adaptive. So what this does is when you switch to what the personality is, this is how ChatGPT is going to respond back to you. All right. And how it's going to interact with you. So you can determine the personality by going to what personality should ChatGPT have and just drop down to whichever one you would like to play around with. Okay. That's a pretty neat little feature. The only other thing I want to show you is if we go back out here and once again, go back to your name and go to settings. Okay. In settings, two things that have also happened is the voice model now is absolutely mind-boggling. So there's two different types of voice, all right? If I'm on a chat window, there is a little microphone. Let me show you that right now. There's a little microphone right here, all right? It says dictate. So all this does, and I use this all of the time now instead of typing because I can speak much quicker than I can type, right? So I click that little microphone and you speak to it and you tell it the prompt and then you click the microphone again and it just basically writes out your words for you so you don't have to type it. That is dictation. This little area right here is called voice mode. Okay, so now they have advanced voice on top of this voice mode. So this is two-way back-to-back with a voice talking to you as you talk to it. You're having a conversation with the AI. And the speed between the way it speaks to you now is dramatically enhanced. That's probably what I've seen has been one of the biggest enhancements has been the voice. So I would definitely play around with the voice and don't say play around. I would use it on a regular basis. There's so many different use cases for that, but I'll be happy to speak with you about how to use voice and how I use it every day. Okay. The last thing I wanted to show you was in case you don't like these upgrades, because there's a lot of people who don't, that are complaining about like the legacy models better than this one. You can actually turn on the legacy models here by just going to that toggle, turning it on. And then when you go back to your drop down box up here, if I go back to ChatGPT homepage, get back out here. Let me refresh here. Stuck. All right. So if I go back out here and I drop this drop down box now. Oh man, what's going on here? All right. Drop down the drop down box. You'll see legacy models and the 4.0 is there. So that's the one before this one that you've probably always been using. If you like the way that one works for whatever reason, more so than you do GPT-5, you can, for now at least, go and toggle back to the 4.0 version. I've done that a couple of times because it was getting caught up with so many people on the new model that it was really slow. So I jumped back over to 4.0, trying to finish a project last night, and I was able to. So that's what I would recommend. All right. So that is enough of GPT-5. I highly recommend you jump in and play with it. It works really great on the mobile. Everyone should have it now because it was pushed out, I think, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of last week. So make sure you check it out. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'm always here to help you. So is the rest of your staff when it comes to working with AI and ChatGPT. So have a great rest of your weekend, and we look forward to speaking to you this week. And as always, if you don't know, now, all right, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much, everyone.